welcome again to another episode of SacTown Talks. I'm your host, Jarhett Blonien, joined today by the Asian Pacific Islander Capital Association President, Melissa Sagun and Allie Umemoto. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us and hear a little bit more about your association, what you guys are up to. Can you guys give us a little background, I guess, on kind of where you guys started and where you guys are working now? And Melissa, you want to go first?
Yeah, happy to start. Thanks for having us here. We're really delighted to join you on this platform and just sharing more about APICA. But basically, the Asian Pacific Islander Capital Association is a nonpartisan nonprofit composed of legislative staffers, lobbyists, advocates, state workers, anyone in and really around the Sacramento capital community who is looking to get professional development, networking opportunities, and more. And our whole goal of, kind of coming together as a community is to pipeline build and ensure that the next wave and the next generation of staffers are ready and equipped to be coming into the workforce here. And so that's our kind of elevator pitch of what APICA is. And for me, how I got into APICA was actually through the Capital Fellowship Program. So I did that in 2020, 2021. And then I ran for the fellows and intern rep position and then continued to stay on the board. I went into the communications director role and then was later tapped to become president for the next 2 years. And I will reference that APICA is also a volunteer-based organization. So all of the board members that currently serve do have their own full-time jobs. I work in legislature, same as Allie, but we do this work in the sense of, trying to lift and create more opportunities for young professionals.
Yeah, and kind of where are you working right now?
Yes, I work for Assemblymember Phil Ting.
Nice. And have you worked for Phil all along, or kind of what different members you worked for through the years?
So before then, maybe jumpstarting back to when I was a Capitol Fellow, I was with then Assemblymember Rob Bonta and Assemblymember Lisa Calderon. And then I jumped into advocacy, worked for a small consulting firm for about two-ish years, did some policy consulting, lobbying, advocacy work, and then decided I missed the Capitol a little too much and wanted to come
So you were a fellow in 2021, you said, or 2020? Well, you've done a lot in this 4 years.
I was in the same year as Symphony and Capri.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, with CLPSA.
And what about yourself, Allie? Kind of what are you doing now, and kind of what led your journey to kind of working at the Capitol?
Yeah, so similar to Melissa, I came in through the California Assembly Fellowship and right after college, and I was placed in my fellow year with Assemblymember Mark Berman. I was fortunate then to get hired on as a legislative assistant with the Assemblymember, and really have been in the office since then. And so that's been almost 3 years now. And then in terms of APICA, I didn't run for fellows rep when I was a fellow, but attended all the events, kind of saw all the work that they do and provide for the community. And so was then tapped in by Melissa and then also former Vice President Taylor to run for the board as Community Affairs Director, especially since I'm from Sacramento. And then last year, ran for vice president. So very excited to continue this work with APICA and see the great work that they do. And so I'm happy to.
And what's the history of APICA? How far does it go back? Kind of who founded it?
So we had to do a lot of digging and kind of lore seeking for this. But from what I understand is that in the early 2000s, there was a group of API staffers plus also any API members, because the community was so small, they had to kind of team together and, find a way to build community and meet each other, ensure that, they're getting references for jobs, et cetera, basically helping build each other up. And then I believe, I'll have to double check this, but the starting date was around 2006 of when the first official board came to be. And then all of that, just continued on year after year, board after board. And I forgot the date where we reached nonprofit status. I think that might have been 2015. Again, I'm just guessing right now. Allie, fact check me if I'm wrong. I think it was around 2015-ish. or that might have been the date of Sushi Showdown. But around the mid 2000s,
Okay.
I would say, is when it
That's amazing
started.
because we've had Bill Wong on before, and he talked about how he was
Mm-hmm.
like one of the only Asian staffers for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had one Asian member. Remember, there was one Asian lobbyist.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was a very underrepresented
Exactly. It was
community.
folks like him. Yeah, it was folks like him and like Maylee Tom, who really helped get the ball rolling in convening us together. So really owe it a lot to their work, for seeing this vision
Yeah.
come to
It's kind of
fruition.
interesting, talking to Bill. Politics is hasn't something the API community has really been interested in getting involved in the past. Kind of what led you guys to kind of want to get into politics?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
hand it over to Allie first, maybe to start off.
Yeah. So I think my intro to politics, well, both of my, being from Sacramento, both of my parents were actually state workers. And so I really saw a value in public service as well. I think what really stemmed for me is I'm a fourth generation Japanese American, also known as Yonsei. And but all four of my grandparents were incarcerated during World War II in the internment camps. And so they, my grandfather actually got really, really involved in politics in the DNC. And so he kind of showed a path of where we need to get involved, make sure we have a seat at the table, advocate for especially minority rights. And so my dad also got really involved in politics. And so I was really interested in continuing that work, and learning more about policy and how that affects politics. And fortunate to get into the Assembly Fellowship, which gave me this great opportunity to kind of get more involved. And so that's kind of my pathway and kind of my history into the work. I will say I also was fortunate to have participated in a lot of similar internships like APICA provides. In high school, I did the Asian and Pacific Islander Youth Leadership Project, or APYLP, which gives like a conference for young APIs interested in the legislature and politics. And then when I was in college, I actually did the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs, or APAPA internship. And so just see the huge value in kind of all the work that's been done from former API people in the building to really create a good community and see the pipeline work at play. And so definitely a product of all those organizations and that work. And that's why, yeah, it's very meaningful for me to participate in APICA and
Yeah. So
kind of
you
give
said
back.
you're fourth generation. Did you say your grandparents were part of the internment? Wow. And
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, all
And
four of
where were
them
they
were.
living before that?
So my dad's family was living in Southern California, and then my mom's family's from the Bay
Okay.
Area,
And did they
Berkeley.
lose their businesses and stuff during the internment, or?
Yeah, they my grandma's worked. They had a farm, so they lost it when they got shipped to Heart Mountain, Wyoming, and
Wow,
then
Wyoming.
my same with yeah, and then my mom's side were in Tanforan, which is kind of like the interim holding before they kind of build out
Mhm.
Topaz
And
Camp
and
in
after the internment, they didn't get it back.
No, I think the farm. No, I think both of my grandparents actually served
Mhm.
in the war. And my grandpa on my dad's side, who was involved in politics, he actually served in the 442nd Regiment, which is a very decorated Japanese American
Mhm.
force in the military. And then most of my like kind of uncles and grants, they went to college in the Midwest where they couldn't
Wow,
leave camp early.
that's amazing. I love it. And what about you, Melissa? What got you into politics?
Yeah. So my parents weren't super involved in politics at all, but they immigrated from the Philippines. Both didn't get to finish their college there, as family duties were calling them to actually join the Navy here in the States. So I'm a product of
Okay.
Navy kids, or Navy families. And so I was originally from San
Are
Diego.
you first generation then?
But I am, yes, first gen. And so in high school, I ended up joining this journalism class and wrote a lot different articles on social justice and activist movements. So at that time, Ferguson was a big thing, and what else did I write about? It was like I wrote a piece on like Islamophobia, very like hot button topics, and I went to a predominantly white school, so context of writing these very like ambitious things during my senior year really riled me up and got me angry and just very passionate about things. And at that same time, Hillary Clinton was running to be president. And so seeing a woman really actively pushing, to get the highest office in government was just very inspiring for me. And I was really all about women's rights and politics. And so I actually switched. I was going to be a psychology major, and then ended up switching to poli-sci at the last second when applying to schools. And so I did my undergrad at UC Riverside, and I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but there was a political science professor by the name of Professor Ron Leverage, and he really saw a lot of potential in me. I did his internship course. I was with then Assembly Member Jose Medina, and then Assembly Member Eloise Gomez Reyes too, in the district office, and then Jose Medina in the Capitol office. And a lot of people were chirping in my ear about the Capitol Fellowship Program, and I applied and I got in. So that's kind of my trajectory.
So kind of, when you first get to the Capitol, it might be kind of overwhelming. There's lots of people, lots of lobbyists coming through your door every day, lots of different members. It could be kind of overwhelming. At what point did you learn about APICA and be like, oh, that might be something, I should join? And kind of how did that help you as a young staffer kind of navigate, the building?
Yeah. I heard about APICA when I did my summer internship. It was back in, I think, 2019 with Jose Medina. And it was funny. I was the early riser intern coming in, waiting for everyone to come into work.
So what time would you get in?
I saw another. I was like 8:45, and it was like my first day, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just wait here. And I saw another intern across the hall, and it was an APICA intern for Assemblymember Rob Bonta. And we were just talking it up, and she was telling me like, oh, I'm doing this internship through APICA. And that's when she kind of first told me about, what it is. It's the association, and they, host an internship program. And I was like, oh, that's really cool that they help convene you all and pay you guys. And I think that's really wonderful. And I know they held a couple of events I attended, and just got my intro that way. And when I applied to the Capital Fellowship Program, I think in my interview or application, I made it clear. I was like, I want to get involved in the API community here, because I wasn't as heavily involved in Asian American student affairs back at UC Riverside. And so wanted to step into this space and really cultivate a community here. And so that was kind of my first instance of knowing what APICA is. And then, just had the opportunity to meet a lot of the board members at that time when I was running for the fellows rep position, felt very inspired, and then ended up landing a role as a fellows rep. So that's kind of my origin story.
What about yourself, Allie?
Yeah, I think the first time I heard about APICA is I think the Capital Fellows program does a good job at making sure that we're aware of the different opportunities and staff associations. And so that's where I kind of first heard about it. And then the APICA board every year hosts kind of this dinner for the incoming API fellows. And so that is kind of when I learned more about APICA, and then just saw how welcoming the board was. And then I got to see, 9 familiar faces around the building. Those were kind of some of the first people that I coffeed and established a kind of a connection with. I think Patrick was the president at the time, and he works in budget committee. And so I think, it was through the fellowship, and attended all the events my first year just to kind of see what the organization does. I remembered Sushi Showdown up on the rooftop bar, and that was a great event that I was like, wow, and I got to meet the APICA fellows as well. And so that's kind of my my intro to APICA was
Yeah,
facilitated
I
by
was
the
looking at your
fellowship.
events. This Sushi Showdown looks pretty cool. Is that something you guys do every year?
Yes, it's an annual event. I think it's been our 12th event now, 12th ish. I think I think it got started, like I mentioned, in I think 2015, and it's a sushi eating competition comprised of legislative staffers. That's what not just legislative staffers, but lobbyists, advocates, anyone who works in and around the Capitol can participate. But most recently, we started a member round, and so we've now welcomed any assembly members or senators who want to compete, and it's just a
What's
really
the
good time.
competition?
And
As much as you can eat, or what?
um, we did like an
Uh,
endurance
okay.
round for both. We've toyed around with different ideas of like an endurance and speed, and no, it was a speed round, and then endurance just ended up being too much because there was like a competitor that was just eating
Yeah,
so
it's
much
expensive.
that we had to keep bringing him sushi. Yeah, it is expensive.
Expensive, and we make
Yeah,
sure they sign waivers too, to just make sure
just like a
everyone's
wasabi eating
good.
Yeah.
contest would be great too. Uh,
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
who are some
that's
of
a
the
good
past
idea.
Yeah.
winners?
This year was DeRay Sanders, and for the member round, it was Senator Dave Min. But before that, it was Assembly Member
Oh wow!
Isaac Bryan who held the winning
So this
title.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and Debray has also won
Oh,
a few times, and so we have champions that come
with the
back.
belt, huh? I was just looking at your
Mm-hmm.
2023 staff numbers. You have 118 legislative staff. Is that right? Is that how many
Yes.
APICA members are?
It's a very rough estimate, and that was from our numbers, I think, from last year. And so we try to make an intentional effort to just keep track of, how many of us are really in the building. It gives us a lot of good context and seeing like where we need to improve. And we like to keep track of like who's a chief, who's a ledge director, who's a ledge assistant, how long have they been a ledge assistant for, who are the interns coming in, are they looking for jobs, and so we try to keep our own internal membership list, and it's very like word of mouth. We don't like work with rules or anything, but it's just like, oh, I know that person, let's put them on the list, and in case they need support and looking for a job or anything or looking to move up, like see where we can
Yeah.
like help connect the
Do you know what
dots.
percentage of staff that is? 118?
If I had the direct numbers,
Yeah.
I would tell you. But I think we've been doing a lot more to stay connected with both the DEI consultants in both the Assembly and the Senate, and they've been really great allies in this work. And I think we always try to communicate with them, like if there's ways that we can cross collaborate and kind of counting on the numbers, counting on the percentages, seeing how much of our workforce in the legislature actually
Right.
reflect this the state of California. That would be great. And so we've been working closely with Lisa and Jamie on those
Yeah.
efforts.
So like obviously, it's great to be a member of a staff organization. You get to go to these fun events, you get to meet people, you get to network. What made you two guys want to serve on the board? As you said, it's a volunteer organization. So, it's one thing to kind of take advantage of the PICA. It's another thing to kind of donate your time and put the effort in. Kind of what made you two want to kind of take the laboring oar and kind of, be on the board?
Allie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it earlier, but I think for me personally, I'm just a product and have really benefited from all of the other organizing that has helped API staff get interested in politics in the legislature. I think I mentioned APYLP, another great organization that APICA we work with, and we were able actually to help this year at their conference, which is for me a full circle moment because I attended in high school, and then this year I was able to be kind of like a mentor and help out in the mock hearings that they host, and then I also did the PAPA internship. And so I think for me specifically, APICA, the fellowship and internship kind of that we run was really appealing to help organize. And my first year on the board, me and Summer, who is the treasurer of this year's APICA board and works in the public safety committee as a secretary, me and her kind of spearheaded that effort and organized it last year. And so that was like my my main motivation to join the board. And you just get so well connected and with others. I got to interview mainly Tom this year, and get to go to a lot of the API caucus events and get connected with the legislatures. We've been doing kind of brown bag events too. So I think those things also appeal to me, is kind of expanding that network and finding that community. And it has, being on the APICA board really helped me kind of find that and find those, be able to connect with those people.
Yeah, I would say for me, when I ran for the fellows and intern rep, it was during COVID, like deep COVID, and just virtual coffees. And I was a fellow just trying to get my bearings in and meet as many people as I can, even with these like limited circumstances. Because I didn't get the same opportunity as all the fellows now of like, you were really out there and getting to interface with people. Like I was stuck in my little COVID home bubble, and just sought out community since this was going to be my first year in Sacramento. And the intern and fellows rep position really helped catapult me into just trying out new things on being on the board. I think during that year, I tried to do like a Christmas toy drive, and tried to find innovative ways to like connect our interns and our internship program that we host. And then later on, when I became comms director, I did a lot of like marketing and comms jobs in college, and so wanted to bring those skills over to APICA as well. And I really enjoyed it. Also, you're not just limited on just doing, what your role entails you. Like you can propose to do events or, try new things. And so at this time, I forgot it was for the Atlanta shootings. It was the 1 year anniversary of it. And there was I think someone on our board was saying that we should host like a vigil to gather our community members together, and heal, mourn, all of the stuff. And so we decided to pick that up and run with it. And it ended up connecting us with a lot of different nonprofit groups serving in the capital, or not just in the capital community, but Sacramento County. So we were connected with like My Sister's House, ED, APAPA, ARI, all the Asian American nonprofits in the community. And we hosted the vigil in front of the west steps of the Capitol. And it was a really beautiful event. APICA hasn't really entered that space before, and getting to interface with so many different people who do different forms of nonprofit work for our community was just really nice to have. And, I think that challenged us to kind of be more creative with our events as well. And I think during that same year when I was comms director, I was able to take the lead on some of the program coordinating for the summer internship. And so that was still virtual, but we were able to have a day where we brought the interns to the Capitol, and it's like just seeing them all excited and really revved up really inspired me. And I think I've told this to Allie before, like the internship, coordinating it really locks you in because it shows you the pipeline in action, and seeing the excitement and the joy that the interns feel, and they feel inspired to take on a career in politics. Like really that makes it all so worth it. And I think after that, I was again tapped to be president, and this is my second year now, and doing the fundraising for APICA, being able to share the narrative about the work that we do. I love doing it, and just getting to work with more of all our external stakeholders and partners, I think has really just been the most appealing part for me. So it's been a really great 4 years so far on the board.
This is kind of the time of year, election season, where it's kind of uncertain for staff who are working for members who are termed out and looking for new jobs. Talking with a lot of these staff associations, mentorship, kind of helping out, staff looking for jobs is always a big function. Can you talk about kind of membership and kind of how you guys are working to help, your members kind of look for spots at upcoming election seasons?
Mm-hmm. Allie, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start off first with the focus and mentorship within our internship fellowship program. I think we really see that as the initial pipeline of undergrad students into like the first level legislative assistant jobs. And so every person gets a mentor in their office as well as a mentor on the board, and then try to connect them with as many people as we can to find, the mentor and the issue areas they're interested in and really help them succeed. I think in terms of mentorship, I think everyone is looking out for each other in APICA, and Melissa can kind of expand on the outgoing members, but I think we also work well with like the caucus and trying to help them find people within our membership who may be interested in elevating. And then, as Melissa said, we're really focused on pipeline. And one of the other things that we do to try to help kind of younger staff, entry level, to go to the next level is host kind of professional development and mentorship within our community to, people who are legislative directors now, give their insights to our memberships who might be seeking those opportunities. And I know with the elections, there's going to be a lot of movement everywhere and a lot of movement up, as well as people go outside the building and look for different opportunities. There'll be a lot of ledge director openings. So I think that's an event that, or a workshop we host every year, is kind of Ledge 202, 203, trying to help kind of the people that we have now to elevate into those higher positions as well. But Melissa, can add anything I missed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that goes hand in hand with the work that we're doing with the DEI consultants, both in the Assembly and Senate. They both, I think, are new positions, and we've had one-on-ones with both entities to kind of showcase, like, hey, there's this very sweet time frame in the fall where there's going to be a lot of transition happening of, and myself, like, I'm also going to be looking for a job. I have a terming out member. And so we are trying to take those early steps and trying out ways of, okay, how can we ensure that, there's not just Asian American staff like serving in, say, just API caucus offices, but also just across the board. It almost every office should at least consider, an Asian American staffer, especially if they have an area like Los Angeles or, the Bay Area. Like, you should have a staff that reflects the demographic of the communities that you serve. And we are kind of being creative with ways and working with them. But we also, we kind of strategically put our events in certain timelines of the year, so that we can allow like that, what's that called? Like a third party space or a community space where people can like meet each other and organically kind of get those relationships and network that way. And I think we create that good ground to cover. And I think we're going to have something in the fall, actually, where we can have a mixer of sorts where we'll have like chiefs, LDs also meet, ledge staff, interns, fellows. And, we know that a lot of tides will be turning in the fall. And so we want to be very smart and technical with our timing too.
Can you kind of talk about, like, how is it being a staffer with, a member terming out, and like, you have a job today, but November's coming around. What is the stress of that, and kind of knowing the future is kind of uncertain? Or is it no big deal?
I wouldn't say at least for me, I came into it knowing he was going to be terming out this year, but I knew I'd be working on some really exciting things. And, I was able to cover an area and a portfolio of work that I feel very passionate about, which is enviro issues. And, I think I'm seeing this time as actually a really good time to reflect and just slow down a bit. And, I used to be someone that was very stressed and, worried about what my next steps are, but I'm seeing just a lot of different opportunities arise, with a lot of the new members coming in who are also Asian American. And so I'm more so excited at the fact that I get to explore new opportunities. And, I'm going to be entering a new season of myself, essentially. And, I think I was talking to one of my other friends who actually was working for a terming out member. And she said she didn't, she was just kind of waiting until end of November. She ended up getting a job in mid-December. So she was just very much affirming me of like, things are going to work out in divine timing. and just take it easy, slow down, because
Are you guaranteed to
this
have a
past
job
year
till
has
like
just been crazy.
to end the year, or is that how that works?
I think the way Assembly does it is that we'll get paid until I think mid
Okay.
January. So there's like a little like bit of time
Yeah, that's interesting.
before,
Well,
yeah,
it kind of brings up,
before we start.
leads us into our next topic, kind of networking events and kind of stuff you're doing to kind of, talk about APICA and kind of help your staff network and kind of organically mingle, as you said before. Kind of what are some of the things coming up that you guys are working on?
Yeah, Allie, do you want to start?
Yeah, so the next kind of mixture that we're planning is kind of, as I think Melissa mentioned it, for the new API fellows coming in, is kind of like a welcome to them. I think we're gonna expand it this year. I think I mentioned that my year it was kind of more of a dinner just with the board and the new fellows. This year, I think we're gonna have a broader people to meet them, as well as like the outgoing API fellows, to give them kind of opportunities to mentor with, or to connect with them, as well as the caucus staff and the broader community, Capitol community, to have their entryway into the Capitol be kind of that welcoming one, hosted by APICA. And then the other kind of ones that we do throughout the year, we always organize around API Heritage Month, of course. And so the last few years we've been doing an API Heritage Month mixer that has been well attended, great caucus support as well, where the folks can come and meet and mingle. I'm trying to think, Melissa, there's a few others throughout the year.
Yeah, I know that again, more in December, we'll host professional development workshops. And so I think we have an appointments one coming up. And I think we can anticipate probably hosting another legislative preparation workshop that's hosted usually by one
Yeah.
of our alumni board members. We've had Paco Torres lead it before, and then more
Is
recently we've
Mona
had
going to
Brandon
host the
Cito come in.
appointments panel? Very good.
We should. She is on the list of considerations, but we actually have a good chunk of one of our board members actually was an appointee as well, and some APICA friends and alumni have been appointees. So we would just love to. We've never had a workshop on that topic, so we would love to just explore
Yeah, no,
that
that'd be
room.
interesting.
Yeah, and I forgot to also mention our great brown bags throughout the year, which are these lunches with API caucus members. And it's just a chance for also the API staff to kind of see their journey of being elected officials and getting into politics, and seeing kind of yourself in these higher offices and places. And so that has been a huge success. And I think one of APICA's, and we should mention, is our first APICA intern class. Assemblymember Alex Lee was a participant, and so I think we also have a great mentorship built in with APICA that has shown to help API staff even obtain elected offices and things like that.
Well, I'm looking at this Sushi Showdown. You guys raised $100,000. That's pretty impressive. Kind of, what does that money go to?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of that goes into our pot of funding for our fellowship program. And we ensure that our interns are being paid minimum wage. And we always match the COLA amount of Sacramento. And so I think every year since then, we've increased the amount that goes to our interns. And, depending on how much we raise in a certain year, in the following year, we can, seek to expand that. And so I think our intern class went from 4 last year, and now there's 7.
Wow.
So hoping that after we kind of recalculate some of our finances, we can continue maybe even increasing
That's awesome. Amount. And kind of when's the timing for the internship, when to apply and things like that?
So I think we usually, every year has been earlier and earlier. I think last year we started end of December, mid-December, and we leave that application open, I think, until end of January, beginning of February. Correct me if I'm wrong, Allie. But it really is like a year-long process of curating the internship turned fellowship program now, because We have to set the dates. We have to think about, okay,
Is it like a
how many
year-long
people can we
internship? Is
allow?
it a summer internship? What? Okay.
It's a summer internship, but after we have the application pool open, we close it. We review the resumes, policy statements, personal statements, and then we dwindle it down to a handful of folks that we want to interview. And we try to interview them during spring recess. So, obviously this is all volunteer work. So we have a little more balanced time and, get to interview these different candidates. And then once we solidify that pool around spring, we'll send out the congrats emails and then give them the time frame, hopefully by like end of April, early May, because they usually have to start making arrangements, especially if they're coming from SoCal, to move up here and find housing. And so that's also the benefits of paying them a living wage stipend, is that we help pay for a lot of these different resources.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, definitely thanks for joining, guys. Definitely fascinating stuff. Great work you're doing. And the internship program sounds awesome. If some of our listeners want to know more about APICA and kind of find out how to apply to the internship and kind of what events you guys are having coming up, where could they find more information?
Yeah, Allie, do you want to share?
Yeah, so definitely our website has a lot of information, which is www.apicasac.org. And then we also, you can follow us on social. I think Instagram, APICASAC, at APICASAC is a great way to know. On the website, you can sign up for our digest newsletter that sends out all of our events, all of our information on the fellowship and things like that. What other social are we on, Melissa? It's
We
Instagram.
tried to dabble in TikTok for a bit, but that never
TikTok dances.
But maybe not TikTok dances, but more so like how people do the reels and all that. Our comms instructor is really good at the real stuff, so maybe, who knows, we'll build up TikTok.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining, and good luck this fall in finding your next spot, Melissa. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.